for another Hill and Ponton VA Benefits Talk Live Q&A. We're excited to be here. I'm excited to be back with Carol, have her in person. It's nice. Carol, you missed a lot of good compliments coming your way last week. People who loved the things you said about CMP exams and waiting and all this other crap. They just thought you were the best. So
you do too, right?
I felt obligated to pass it on. So this time, guys, if you have compliments from me, she can read them, and we're fine with that. But when I'm doing the cast by myself and she gets all the compliments, that hurts the ego.
Nothing can hurt that ego.
Just to let you know, today we got to end just a bit early, so that's why we started early. So let's go ahead and jump into it. From Esther, I was 50% for other diagnoses since 2018. Hot, 100%. Had 100% P&T for PTSD in February 2023. Sleep apnea and carpal tunnel were deferred. Recently got 50% for sleep apnea. Carpal tunnel was denied. Is it worth the appeal of the decision? So basically, she's 100%. No, because she already should be getting SMCS. So you're 100% for PTSD. That's great. And what we talked about last week was the next step up is getting other combined ratings up to 60%, which would give you SMCS, which is a bump about $300 to maybe $400 a month. Now, Carol's going to say, how bad is the carpal tunnel syndrome?
No, Carol's going to say, why is PTSD only from this year?
Oh.
Did you file that claim prior to February of this year? And that's a lot of money you're leaving on the table if you don't file for an earlier effective date. Now, you're taking a chance that, what would you do, Matt?
Well, if she applied this year, then that's
if she didn't apply this year, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
What
if
she
you applied before February, you need to make sure it goes back to the date you applied. I agree with that.
That's one of the biggest things the VA does. They are not following the rules. If you filed for PTSD before, then you filed a supplemental claim within a year, then they should give you the original date that you filed, not February of this year. But religiously, that's what they do, and that's wrong. So I would not appeal the rating. I would appeal the effective date only.
And what I'll say about carpal tunnel, it depends on the degree. If you're to the point where you cannot use your hands and you believe it's related to service, you need to file for that because that could give you a much higher special monthly compensation.
Now, I'm assuming they did give you SMCS because they have you 100% for PTSD.
Right. So that should be, as I was saying.
Well, I'm just guessing though, because I've been seeing some big mistakes on that lately.
Okay. Check that on your code sheet, which you have to call in for, and that shows you everything you're service connected for. Then at the bottom, it gives you your combined ratings and would let you know if you're entitled to SMCS. Or check it on, Nate, if you could throw up the compensation sheet. I think it's on there, you can see something that says, you can go to the year and then go and see where it says special monthly compensation. Here,
and I'll tell you what rate you should be getting. So if you're getting S and that corresponds with what you're getting, then you know you're getting the right thing. But I think you should always get your rating sheet. That's really important information.
Yeah. That'll tell you what happened when and denied, granted, all that.
Yeah.
All right. Second question. Alan, I filed a claim that was remanded back to the RO, but the condition is making an unrelated condition worse. Should I file secondary before I get a decision back on my claim?
Read my lips. As soon as you know you have a claim, file it. Please, please.
Read her lips. Next question. Kevin, your law firm is handling my Fort Mac claim. If I'm approved for the AOD, will it speed up? If I'm approved for AOD, will it speed up my claim or does it just put me in a shorter line and still waiting? Thanks for you guys for doing. It's awesome. So AOD is advance on the docket, and that's only done at the Board of Veterans Appeals. And so you have to show a reason like age, financial problems, health problems, family health problems. If you're approved for that, it will speed it up, but you are right, Kevin. There's still AOD cases in front of you that will be handled.
So advance on the docket is a great thing to get. And most of the time you're going to get a decision within 3 months. Sometimes it's quicker, sometimes it's longer. Yeah. That's a lot better than years, what most people are looking at.
Vet, how does presumptive soundness apply to injuries before service, not on entrance exams, and then having service injuries, wear and tear, the same issue? How do I claim this? Okay, presumption of soundness is kind of this weird concept that basically says when you are inducted into service and you go to your DOD exam, medical exam, that is the one chance the VA to say you have something in you that's defective. Okay.
Right.
You blew your knee out in high school football. It's still a little weak, but they're going to let you in anyway. They note that on the exam. All right. If they note nothing and then you apply for benefits and they say, can't get you benefits because this happened before service, that's where presumption of soundness comes in. The presumption is that you were sound upon entering, and they have to show through clear and convincing evidence otherwise. The important thing to see here there is the VA has the burden of duty, not you. They have to show through clear and convincing evidence that it happened before service, okay? So even if they show that there's clear and convincing evidence that happened before service, they also have to show there was no aggravation. So they also have to show through clear and convincing evidence that nothing happened in service that would have aggravated the disease beyond the normal scope of what that disease would be. So if you're saying you had wear and tear from, jumping out of planes or carrying a heavy rucksack, that counts, okay? So it is a very powerful presumption because this actually shifts the burden of proof from you to the VA.
And these claims are the ones that, there's certain words that pop out to us. Severance. They almost always do severance wrong. Presumption of soundness, they almost always do it wrong.
Yeah.
Remember, once they have accepted you as sound, there's nothing on your entrance exam, then the burden is on them, but they don't take that. They give it back to you. And they will use things like something in the record says you had this beforehand. Well, that's not proof.
Right.
Okay. So anytime I see a case like this, where they say that you had this before service and yet your entrance exam doesn't show it, it's a good case. Don't put that down. Keep that going.
Let's go back to the knee example with football. Let's say you did blow your knee out in junior year of football season, okay? You went out, you rehabbed it, it came back, and a lot of times when people rehab their knees, it's actually stronger than the other knee. Well, if you go into service and they say there's nothing wrong with you, and then you're having an exam 2 years in and you say, oh yeah, I blew out my knee playing football, VA can't use that against you because you came in completely whole, okay? Your knee was not problematic when you came in.
Right. So remember, if you've got either one of those are good claims. Don't let them go.
Yeah.
And you may have to go to the board. You'll probably have to go to the board.
Right.
The regional office does not know what they're, just go to the board.
Next question. Richard, if you file direct review with the BVA, you're over 75 years old. What's the estimated wait on the appeal? Well, you need to immediately file the advance on the docket.
Yes.
That will speed it up from years to a couple of months.
Remember, the BVA is saying that they're doing that automatically. Sometimes they are and sometimes they aren't. So you have to do that to make sure they've really picked that up.
Yeah, they'll tell you they're doing it automatically.
No. So on your letter, in all caps, motion to advance on the docket, 75 years or whatever age you are over veteran, okay? Because you want to get their attention. They get thousands of letters a day. That's what they need to see, and then they'll get to it right away. And I would say you'd have that within 3 months at the most.
Yeah. As far as reviewing past denials, I don't know that they look and see what the RO did. They might. And this is a really important question you have here. Can you explain attach an exclamation to your disagreement? Okay, so let's back up. Richard wants to go in the direct review lane. That means that he's going to the BVA and he is not allowed to submit any more evidence.
So after the first decision, whatever evidence came in after that, so the first decision you got on this claim, that's the end of evidence.
He could have filed a supplemental claim.
I'm saying that, well, then that would have been a
decision.
But that would have been a decision on the supplemental claim. I'm saying, say you got a supplemental claim.
Yeah.
You were denied, then you filed a higher level review and you were denied. The only thing they're going to look at is what was there when the supplemental claim was denied, not the higher level review. So this is tricky. Okay. So that's the only evidence they're going to look at.
Right. So there's evidence and then there's argument. Your evidence is sealed, but you can always submit argument. Okay.
Right.
You can always write in saying, this is why I think this was wrong. Here's the evidence. Pointing to your evidence is positive that should be granted, and then you can comment on their evidence. You went to a CMP exam that lasted 2 minutes, and they said it lasted 65 minutes, and it did not accurately portray what was going on with you. Next question. Andre, when the VA does a Q and takes away a percentage, what does the VA have to prove? I.e. heart condition for Camp Lejeune or Desert Storm veteran. They have to prove through clear and unmistakable evidence that the prior decision was wrong. And basically that means the evidence cannot be debatable. It can't be something that, even though they think it's different and it should be going another way, the fact that it's been granted, they cannot go back and take it away.
And that's the third word that I look for when I hear severance, soundness, or Q, and the VA is using it against you. I'm willing to bet they're wrong. I seldom see the VA on their own give a Q that's in your favor. I seldom see them give you a Q that that really applies to the law. Usually it's their decision that they shouldn't have done that. It's not clear and unmistakable. So those are really, really important cases that you need to keep going, and you're not going to win at the regional office more normally. Sorry, you're not. So, I want to encourage you so you don't give up that claim.
I agree, Carol. Do not give up your claim even with the RO.
Right.
Gwen, I recently won my higher level review to restore my 60% rating for asthma, but the effective date they have is now July 23 instead of the original date of 2018. What do I do to get to the original date and not the continuation? The date which starts my time back over August over this 5-year period that the 60% rate that they screwed up and reduced to 30. You got to appeal. Continuation. According to CFR, the meds I was on for asthma, high dose corticosteroids, daily prednisone, and immunosuppressant.
Why are you reading these questions?
I love you to read. Why won't they grant me 100%? In December, I put in for increase. Sorry, last continuation. Instead, they reduced me to 30%, hence me doing the higher level review and winning. Should I be granted 100% for what I do? It sounds like you should be granted 100%.
And they should have gone back, because it sounds like you've continued to appeal this.
If you have continued to appeal this since they reduced you, it should go all the way back. As far as getting to the 100%, it depends on when you started those medications. And
so it should be really clear. I would make sure I got a copy of whatever records you have that show that and submit them so you know that they've been in there.
But since you've had a higher level review and we're talking about law, not necessarily facts, I think you probably have to go to the Board of Veterans Appeals. Although if you have information about those medications you submitted and it's not in there, or it's not evident, then maybe you can file a supplemental claim. And the reason why I would say that is that case will be turned around a lot quicker than what's going on at the board right now.
But if you have to go to the board, get a lawyer, because that looks like, I would think that's more confusing than most of the cases.
Yeah, she's probably right. LG, good to see you. Hello, I have all my evidence ready to submit for my sleep apnea claim, but haven't received my CPAP from the VA yet. Should I wait until it's received?
Read my lips. Always file now, please. I get so many veterans that they'll file one claim and then they'll wait and then they'll file another claim, and you're losing so much money. Please don't do that.
They want you to wait.
They love it.
They keep your money.
And this is something so many people were told years ago, and I don't know by who, and they just keep telling them over, wait till you got everything, then you file your claim, only file one claim at a time. Don't do that. That's really bad advice. Yeah.
Bob, thanks for hosting these Q&As. Currently rated at 20% for chronic lumbar strain. Do I need a nexus letter for radiculopathy or just a diagnosis?
I would think just the diagnosis.
I agree. Nothing else causes radiculopathy.
No.
Typical dad, good to see you. 38 U.S. Code 1168 A1B was used to deny my PACT Act IBS claim. The examiner opined less likely than not that IBS was caused by toxic exposure. Thoughts? Yeah, I got some thoughts. If you were in theater over in Southwest Asia and you have IBS, the point of the C&P exam is not to determine if there's a nexus.
No.
The point of the C&P exam is to determine how severe it is. So you need to write and say this was a failure of the duty to assist because they sent you to the wrong C&P exam. This is not about whether it's related or not. We see this all the time. That doesn't matter. The reason why it's a presumptive connection is because there's no need for a nexus. They already found the medicine to prove it.
Which you should put in as well. A failure to apply the correct law.
Yeah, failure to apply the presumption. So you need to go for higher level review and say there's a failure both on the CMP examiner's part
And the rater's
and
part.
the rater's part, because the question that should have been proposed, what's the rating, was not. Instead, they were talking about a nexus, which is completely irrelevant. That's granted once we have service in Southwest Asia and that diagnosis. Augustus, what is the PACT Act percentage for thyroid cancer and thyroidectomy? I'm service connected through the PACT Act, but rated 0 because I'm in remission, according to the VA. Thoughts? She's got some thoughts.
I don't remember offhand what the rating is, but
Let's talk about cancer in general that's in remission.
For cancer in general that's in remission, remember what you have to show are the residuals. Mm-hmm. What problems has cancer left you? One of the big problems with thyroid cancer is if they take your thyroid out, that really can affect your emotions, your energy level, your thinking. I mean, it is really profound. So any of the problems you have now, fatigue, mental confusion, depression, anger, outbursts, those things can be directly related to the thyroidectomy. I know people that sometimes it takes years to get the medication, the thyroid medication, so that you're level, and sometimes you never can really get it back straight. So I think that they've done that wrong. You need to go back and show the residuals that you have to deal with because of that.
I agree.
But that's standard VA. Cancer's gone, you're fine. Okay.
And just realize the rating for 0 for cancer is correct if it is in remission, but they need to look to your residuals of that, because honestly, we don't see any cancer that leaves you whole. Okay. Great. It's in remission. It's not in your body, but there's still destructive nature of the cancer and frankly, the treatments as well. Radiation,
chemotherapy, those things don't go away, unfortunately. Now, remember, under the law, they should have given you compensation pension exam, and I'll bet they didn't. They just grab 100% and put it in there.
Yeah.
I mean, 0%.
Vet, again, does a buddy statement from family members need to be notarized or on the form, a specific VA form?
I always use VA forms. They are form driven, and they respond to forms. They don't know what to do with regular stuff. So please always use a form if they have one.
Which form is that?
I think the one now, it's 10208. It used to be 4138, but I think it's one.
PTSD.
No.
Okay.
It's VA 21-10208. I'm pretty sure that's it because I was looking at it the other day. Okay. Before it was VA 21-4138, and you can always use that because when you sign your name on those forms, it is notarized.
It looks like they're still using the 4138.
If they're still using the 4138, I know that one because they used that for years.
You're right. They're using this as well. So
it's 10210.
Yeah. Here, I might give this to Nate to throw up there.
Because remember, these forms, you write what you have on there, and as you sign your name, it's sworn to. You don't have to get it notarized. The VA accepts it as that.
Yeah.
So 10210.
Yeah, and Nate's going to show you the link on here.
Okay.
And also the 4138, we'll put that up as well.
Anytime you have friends writing a statement, family writing a statement, please use those forms. Don't have them write a piece of paper and put their name on it because the VA says it's not sworn. Some of them are really hard about that, and so it's not really evidence.
And the other thing is VA is becoming a lot more computer driven.
Yes.
You send that in, it's automatically going to be flagged as a buddy statement, which means the adjudicator has to read it.
Right.
Frankly, you're helping the adjudicator because if there's just letters in there, they don't know if that's they don't know if that's cover sheet. They don't know what that is. So get it on the form so that it helps them. I mean, at the end of the day, you got to help them help you.
Right.
All right. Yolanda, good to see you again. Help me understand the DBQs.
Which means Disability Benefits Questionnaire.
Seems like it's geared towards verifying diagnosis and symptoms. How does a medical examiner determine or link symptoms to service connection? Service connection discussion, not part of the CMP exam. That's typically true. If you look at the disability benefits questionnaires, they go to the symptomatology and the rating and not the nexus. Now,
well, they start off diagnosis. So the diagnosis is going to be what is the diagnosis?
Right.
And it will say PTSD or whatever. And then it goes through all the categories of problems with that.
Mhm.
So what the VA tried to
But
do.
the
Go ahead.
CMP examiners have different ones than we have that we could give to our doctors. Our doctors don't have, they have that, but at the end for the CMP examiner, it says, is this related to service and why? And it's not in the ones that if you download from the DBQ, from what I've seen.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought that's what the medical opinion was, which is a whole separate
Oh, I
document.
see what you're saying. I've just seen it to where what she's talking about in that there's just two different, the form you get doesn't speak to that. The form that the CMP examiner has should speak to that. And if it doesn't, that's a failure of duty to assist.
But so the DBQ we get is geared toward verifying the diagnosis and the symptoms. And then normally you see another document in there that's called medical opinion that says, is this related?
All right. Dennis, diagnosed with diabetes, was denied for pre-diabetes, rated 0 for hypertension, and given losartan. Effect is higher glucose. Can I apply for secondary for diabetes hypertension?
Absolutely.
Yes. Need a nexus? You're going to need a nexus. Here's the thing with hypertension. The highest rating you're going to get most likely is a 10%, but a lot of people get 0%. But you got to remember, hypertension is I call it a gateway disability. Okay. It causes so many awful systematic chronic diseases secondary to it. Diabetes is one. Okay. So yes, you need to file for that. And if they fight you, you need to keep on going.
But what I would say is my reading of this is they didn't deny you they didn't say you weren't service connected. They said you didn't really have diabetes. You were pre-diabetes.
That's true.
So I would fight that if you actually have diabetes and you have a lab work, which would be your A1C, then I would appeal that and say, I actually do have diabetes. So remember, you always want to know, why did they deny you? From what you're saying, it looks like they didn't deny you for the basis you were asking for. They just said, oh, you don't have diabetes, and that's why we're denying you. So make sure you understand why they denied you.
And that's a really good point, Carol. And the other thing I do look at is if you have hypertension, I'm wondering if that was a presumptive disability granted under Agent Orange. If that's the case, then your diabetes should be presumptive as well.
And remember, you are on medication. So you should have gotten a 10% for your hypertension if prior to putting you on medication, your blood pressure readings were, if the bottom one was 100 or over, and the top one was, it's over 150, 200. I can't remember. But you need to make sure they look back and see if that's, because if you're on losartan, I'll bet you that your readings were that high. Okay, they probably just took the latest. And then for hypertension, remember, you need to look, do you have chronic kidney disease? I would say many people have it and don't even know it because the doctors don't seem to mention it. So you want to go to your labs again, that's your blood work, and look for creatinine or the AFGR, okay? AGFR. Anyway, down there, they will show on there.
And it'll say an H usually next to it. Or
high or low.
Or low.
Oh, it's EGFR, and it's EGFR. Usually if it's under 60, that's a problem. Okay. So get it out. You can put into Google. Google is great. Put into Google GFR, and then it would say, that will tell you what the blood work should be. Okay. The same with creatinine. If you put creatinine in there, it will tell you. And then look on your form to see what the lab is showing that your creatinine or your EGFR is.
And here's the rub on that. Even if you're 0% for hypertension and your kidney is off, and you're having problems with your kidney, and what Carol said, if you look on your labs and you see that one of those two are off, you're at a 60% rating just for that. So this is really important to look at your secondary disabilities due to hypertension.
Because that's where you get the ratings, heart. And the other thing, remember, if you have chronic kidney disease, you may also have a voiding problem where you have to go to the bathroom all the time. That can give you a separate rating. So that's where you really get your ratings for hypertension, not for the hypertension alone.
Great question, Dennis.
Yeah.
Yolanda again, is the VA backed up due to the PACT Act claims? I have pending claims with no activity, no request for additional information, or request for CMP exam. Yes, they had a surge of claims a lot larger than they thought. The last I heard, it was 800,000 claims just for the PACT Act. And they've got procedures, which you guys have all seen who's done the PACT Act, of too many CMP exams, a lot of paperwork they throw at you. And so they've not done themselves any justice in making, they've not helped themselves by speeding those up. So that has clogged the system.
But you want to be the squeaky wheel,
Mm-hmm.
because you need to call the 800 number, ask them what's going on with my case, send a letter saying, what is the status? I filed this on this date.
Right.
And I think that would help move your case along. Don't just sit there.
L. Teal, I had a higher level review from 1022. Finally had re-examination 723. How long until claim corrected? 723. So that's 2 months ago. I would hope you get that in the next month. That's my hope. Whether that happens or not, it could be 5 or 6 months. But
once again, I would call in and say, this
Then
claim
2
dates
months,
from this
yeah.
date. The exam was back then. What is the status? Now, it may be that they are sending out for another CMP exam or clarification
Yeah.
or whatever they're doing. But if they're not, it could be it's just sitting there and they haven't noticed it.
You poke the bear, she said.
Be the squeaky wheel.
Yeah. Susan, my husband had a CMP exam over a year
Wow.
ago in which the DR diagnosed him with bilateral lower extremity neuropathy, which we had no prior diagnosis of, then said need to rule out vascular cause. How much more? They never posted the report and I had to order it and received it a year later. Does the VA or the doctor not have an obligation to advise the patient on new and possible dangerous diagnoses?
The VA is, when they do a compensation and pension exam and find a problem, yes, they're supposed to tell you, but your treating VA doctor would not even know that exists. Because remember, everything's confidential and they're not going to send that to your treating doctor.
Which is maddening.
Yeah.
Because you're treating with the VA.
Yeah.
You're going to CMP examiner with the VA. It's not like this is a Social Security thing.
Do they have no obligation to rule out a vascular cause or consider if this diagnosis is related? I would think that they do.
Yeah.
Yes, I think you
Because
should refile.
all of that, yeah. Yes, I would refile because, is there more? Yes. Disability, she refiled disability when we are already 90% TDIU for only a year, considering he doesn't reach the 10-year TDI mark for spousal benefits. Yes, I would definitely refile.
And why do you only have TDIU for a year? Is this something that once again you had an ongoing appeal and then they just gave you the benefits and didn't go all the way back? If they did, go all the way back. Say this is, and that's, remember, if you get, those are higher level reviews and you really should do those or they may be the board, but I would not give up all those benefits if you've been appealing that and you've been out of work for all this time.
And I definitely be looking at the vascular and trying to get that service connected, even if you are 100%. I hate telling people that, so keep on filing if you're 100%, but that's unfortunately
not a good condition to have. It can cause other things.
Andre, how long does advance on the docket take in the direct review lane in 2023 with BVA? We're thinking 3 months.
That's my guess. That's what I'm seeing. Now, as I said, I would say 80% fit within there. There's some that go quicker, some that take longer.
Yeah. Carlos, I'm service connected for hypothyroidism. I filed for RA arthritis, secondary and denied. RA is an autoimmune disease and hypo is autoimmune disease. Why the denial? You still got to have a good nexus. You got to have a doctor who's supporting you, saying one is related to the other. So, it sounds like you have a strong claim, but without a doctor coming in and saying this is why he has rheumatoid arthritis, they could still deny you.
And this is one where, have you read the compensation and pension exam? Mm-hmm. One of the biggest problems I find is the compensation and pension examiner will say, you did not have rheumatoid arthritis while you were in the service, and therefore it's not service connected. So this is a failure to assist. They did not act on what your claim was, is that I didn't have it in service. It has been created from my hypothyroidism, which is service connected. And I would say 50% of the time, that's what I'm seeing. So make sure you have a copy of your compensation and pension exam and see the real reason that they denied you. Then I'd file a duty to assist, point out, this is the claim I have. This is not what they adjudicated.
Yeah. Tom, how can I fire a BSO that I don't want handling any claims? Well,
easy. Just file it, get somebody else on your 22A, file it, and they're gone.
Or you send in a letter saying I'm no longer want to be represented by DAB or whoever. Yeah. And it's gone that way as well.
Remember the 22A, VA 21/22A is the form that someone who represents you, you've signed to agree to put them on there. As soon as you put somebody else on, that knocks that person off automatically.
J. Airy, I put in a claim for bilateral foot pain because of a mild flat feet prior to service and it was denied. But favorable findings shows plus plantar fasciitis and plantar fibroma. I have 10% service connection for knees, 20% for back due to scoliosis. How can I get service connected for my feet? Thank you for all that you do. To me, the angle I would take is secondary to the knees and the back, that they either cause it or aggravate it.
I would say if he only had a mild foot problem and then during service that was aggravated because you had to wear the boots, all of the things that you were carrying, I would go back and have them get your entrance exam. What does it say? Is it only mild? And then get your service medical records to show, did you go in and complain? Did you ask for supports for your feet? And then get witness statements saying that because during service, my son started complaining about his feet, problems that he'd never had before. I would think that. I think the foot can cause a knee problem, the back, but I don't know that they can cause a foot problem. You may, I don't think, I would argue that, but I don't know that's as strong as what he's got for service. I mean, they have shown that for years, the military had you in horrible boots with no support, tramping all over the place, carrying ridiculously heavy things, going up and down mountains. That sounds like aggravation to me, if nothing else. So I would really lean on that and argue the foot and the knee, the back and the knees.
Michael, if you put in a claim for TDIU while paying child support care and the state garnishes your VA benefit payments, or does it depend on what state you're living in?
This is state law.
Yeah.
And each state is different.
Yeah. So I think it does depend on the state you're living in.
Yeah.
Vet again, is it always better to waive RO new evidence when your case is waiting to be decided by the board? You can't have them decide the same claim. If you're filing a separate claim, if you've got a claim X at the board and you're filing for claim Y at the RO, then sure, you can put in new evidence. But if you're refiling for claim X, just putting in new evidence, you cannot do that.
Okay, I'm thinking about, remember the cases that go up to the Court of Appeals for Veterans Claims. When they come back, a lot of times they go back to the board saying you made a mistake. And and then they'll have the veteran, do you want to enter new evidence, or you just want the board to make a decision on what evidence we have? I would look at that as, why did they deny you? And do you think you have good evidence to refute what they were saying? If I think they do, then I might waive that. But otherwise I might say, no, I want to come back to the regional office and then I can put new evidence in. It really depends on the case.
If you're at the board, you don't want to come back to the RO on the same issue because you'll lose your effective date.
I know, but if I know what judge I have and he's going to deny me and I get a chance to get more favorable evidence in, I'm taking it back. I'd rather have
what you just said, though. You're taking it back to the RO after it's been at the board for 3 years and you lose those 3 years.
No, I don't. No, the letters that I'm talking about, the letters you get saying, there's new evidence before us. Do you want it sent back so the regional office can decide it and then send back up?
Okay.
Yeah. So this is a case where you really need to see what evidence is in there. Do you feel like you have good evidence? Have you proved whatever it was that why did the judge deny you in the first place at the board? It can be that the judge never saw it. It's not a decision, or it could be one where there was a denial and now they're looking at it again. So it really depends on what's happened with the case.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with that. Sergio, I have 3 head injuries in my record, diagnosed with TBI, tremors, and slow deliberate movement. Buddy statements. What else do I need for the TBI claim? You need a nexus still to show whatever happened in service caused this. The fact that you have the buddy statements, that's great. The doctor, whoever looks at you, should be looking at those statements in addition to your statements, and then giving you a nexus. But you need a positive nexus showing that it's related to service.
So remember, you want to file the claim right away. Give the VA a chance. Maybe they'll do it for you. A lot of times, if examiners see that there's proof of head injury and you have problems, then they will maybe give you that nexus. So I definitely file the claim and see what the VA examiner says before you spend that money.
Robert, One of two, am retired Navy and waiting on my first only claim, filed May 2023. I was also in Gulf War I. I intend to use a portion of the back pay to start SP.
I don't know what SPP is.
Small business, something. I don't know either, for my spouse. The cutoff date for SBP is January 24. If my claim doesn't get processed in time, would I have a claim against the VA under the administrative error? No, you would not.
No.
John Johnson, what does this mean? Supplemental claim has new decision saying compensation issue. In the issue box, is this good or bad?
I don't know what that means.
Yeah, sorry. John.
I know. I don't know what they're.
Supplemental claim has a new decision saying compensation issue. Yeah, I don't know what that means either. I mean, was it granted?
All I'm guessing is this is a compensation versus a pension. I've never seen them use that other than that.
William, is the Privacy Act route the only way to get copies of CMP medical records from contract medical exams?
You can't get them from the contract medical exams. You need to get them from the VA. If you write a letter saying, I had an exam on this date, I would like a copy of it, they'll send it to you.
Ronald RS, hi, is it possible to win a non-combat service-connected claim at the RO, or should I expect to appeal it? Thanks.
You can win.
Yeah, and you got to realize the majority of the PTSD claims out there are non-combat
Right.
PTSD claims. All you need to show is a stressor in service, and unfortunately, our service members are put under such dangerous conditions stateside anywhere. They're not treated. They don't get like OSHA laws, right? There's no treatment as it should be, and there's just plenty of opportunities to get hurt. So yes, we win those all the time at the regional office.
But don't fall into the VA trap of having to prove the stressor. If you have a problem with proving the stressor, if it's not clear, go with acquired psychiatric disorder. That just means I had no problem mentally before service, but I did afterwards. And you can get letters from your mother's, brothers, friends, anybody who knew you prior to service and right after service. That way, you don't have to prove a stressor. And that's how the VA defeats you. They say, well, there's no proof this ever happened, so clearly you're lying and denied. But if it's acquired psychiatric disorder, that's all you have to prove.
Cassius, I am SMCS and have a head injury in recent training and now having symptoms of head injury, headaches, cognitive impairment, and depression. Should I file for a claim for head injury in recent training for higher SMCS such as O or R1? Yeah.
So the question is, how about SMCT? Okay. Does that mean because of a traumatic brain injury, you now are you need aid and attendance, but you also look like you need to file for aid and attendance. There's basic aid and attendance you need to file for and get approved before they'll probably look at an SMCT. But you need to know exactly which SMC you're looking for and why. But I would definitely file for all of those problems, head injury, headaches, whatever, and I would file for aid and attendance. Aid and attendance is because of your service-connected problems, you can't do the activities of daily living in regard to your health. So that means you can't take a bath because you can't get out of the tub. You can't stand in the shower. You forget to take your medication. You mix up your medication. You forget to go to the doctor. When you put something on the stove, you leave it and it burns. That kind of things. Those are the things that you need to show. And if you show that, you should be entitled to aid and attendance in
any one of those things.
Any one of those things. But it has to be directly related to whatever your service connected for. And then you want to file for SMCT. That's the one that's going to give you
max benefits.
The max benefits. That's because of the TBI. You need exceptional aid and attendance. I go outside and I get lost. So I need somebody with me 24/7. I wander. I just walk out of the door. I don't know where I'm going. I can't remember where I live. If you have any of those problems, that's SMCT, and that's $10,345 a month.
Thereabouts.
More or less. I like that number.
Oh, Yolanda.
See? Rock, Matt, you rock.
Hi, Matt. Ha! You guys rock. Thank you for your Q&A. Had all my student loans discharged.
Yes.
Great to see that.
That is.
God, those are ball and chain, the student loans.
They are.
And Carol, how do you get rid of them?
You get 100% permanent and total, and then you just write to the wherever your loans are, and
suck an egg.
here's a copy of my permanent and total.
Sergio, I had diagnosis with migraines, nexus letter due to PTSD, buddy letter and migraine log, and DBQ. What else do I need for migraine claim due to PTSD? I think
Hope you filed one. That's all you need to do.
I think you got a strong claim there.
Yeah.
Sergio. I'm glad you did the research. You took your time to figure out what needed to be done to win the claim. That's strong. If they deny you, you need to go for higher level review, and you need to keep on fighting because you've clearly taken the time to do this, and I applaud you for that.
But I hope you filed the claim when you started.
She's all into that.
I mean,
I think you have, Sergio.
we're sure you did.
All right. Yolanda Frugadams, I'm confused. How much additional is SMCS or K? On the charge, it shows a rate of $41.98 for S. So is that the additional 500 or is it an additional $41.98? No. You get 100% or you get SMCS. SMCK is the only one they add on to whatever you have. But once you get into the higher SMCs, S, L, M, N, O, R, then those are just, you get just that. You don't get them added together.
Okay, so you had 3,600, I think, or 3,600 is what they're paying for 100% now, around there. When you get S, then what you're getting is 41.98 total.
Sergio again, I have a diagnosis and nexus letter for ED due to PTSD. What else should I do? And can you guys post a video for the right way to submit that? Thank you. So,
you know, don't we have our own, where they come to us and they can use our thing to submit a claim?
Yeah, that's not working right now. But Nate, can you find that? I'm sure there is a video. Just if you've never filed for ED before, you would file a 21-526, which is basically a new claim, and you'd say it's due to PTSD. I think we have videos on that, and hopefully Nate will post one if we do.
But remember, if you have online e-benefits, that whole thing, there should be up in the corner, file a claim. And you just click on that, and that lets you file the claim.
Another step. Good to see you. 1 of 3. I filed a PACT Act for rhinitis claim providing a disability benefit questionnaire signed by my ENT doctor. I just had my CMP. Examiner asked if I had records to provide. Gave her my DBQ, and my exam was verbatim repeat. Examiner asked if I had records to provide. Gave her my DBQ. Exam was verbatim a repeat. Examiner asked for my CT results. My ENT clearly stated on DBQ that my CT scan shows polyps. Examiner said she needs to verify. How will she do that? Should I send the CT scan and radiology report? Does my DBQ mean nothing? I would send those in. The frustrating thing here is you took the steps, another step. You took all the steps you needed to prove your claim, and the VA looked at it and said, oh, this is nice. Now let's send you to our examiner. Their examiner probably is not an ENT, probably not as qualified as your doctor. But I would send that anyway, because unfortunately you got to play the game.
Right.
Joy, with a mild level for sleep apnea, prescribed CPAP, is this strong enough case to file for secondary to my asthma or weak? If it's secondary to your asthma, it's secondary to your asthma. It doesn't matter how bad it is.
But here's my question. Remember, you can only get a rating for one of those two things. So if you're getting 50% for sleep apnea, how bad is your asthma? Is your asthma going to be rated higher than 50%?
Well, the asthma is the one service connected.
Is it strong enough to file? Oh, mild level.
So I would file that, and Carol's right.
Yeah.
So you get a bump from whatever you're getting, 20%, 30% for asthma, up to the 50% hopefully for sleep apnea.
But if you already have a rating over 50% or at 50, I think you're wasting your time.
Joy, what's the best way to describe my mental health issues as acquired mental health disorder in my personal statement?
Look at that DBQ. Those DBQs are really comprehensive, and they talk about depression, suicidal ideation, panic attacks, Are you around socializing? That goes over all the issues they're looking at. Plus, you need to read the rating. So there's a rating for mental impairment. Can we get Nate to pull that up?
Yeah, I'm going to pull the DBQs.
And if you look at the rating, then it shows you what they're looking for 10%, because it goes 10, 30, 50, 70, and 100. So if you look at what they're asking about, that way you can direct your situation to the rating. And I think that's a much better way of doing it.
I agree. You want to use their words as much as you can. I mean, it's like you're spoon feeding them. Okay. And that's exactly what I would do as well. Michael, hi. The VA has said that they need to correct a duty to assist error that they made for an effective date for IU. How long does this normally take?
It should take 3 to 6 months, but if they take longer, they may have lost it.
Yeah. So then you start, as Carol said, squeaky wheel.
Yeah.
Return Sarah, 2018, Army National Guard active duty orders. Injury caused TMJ, no line of duty. MO said over 50%. TMJ was service connected. Claim was denied, no service connection. Why is service connection denied if MO said service connection? Thoughts? Asking for a friend.
What is MO?
I imagine medical officer.
Mm-hmm. All right. You have to remember this is always sad or difficult, because if you are active duty, continuously active duty, any of that happens during service counts. But if you are on National Guard or you're not active duty, then you have to show that the injury actually occurred when you were activated for the weekend, for the summer, or whatever. And so they're looking for that. And I don't know why.
This doesn't make sense to us.
No, it doesn't.
This to us is an appeal.
Right.
And when you look at your rating decision where this was denied, you need to see what were the favorable findings. Okay. Mm-hmm. So what did they agree with you on, and what did that implicitly shows you what they didn't, because they didn't put it there. And then you need to argue what they did not put there to the higher level review or the Board of Veterans Appeals.
Injury caused TMJ, no line of duty.
We're assuming no line of duty means that they did not do a line of duty assessment.
Yeah, now that could be, if they didn't do an assessment, then it's up to the VA to do an assessment. And you can help them by having anybody who happened to be with you, doing a buddy statement. I am in the same company. We were activated during this time, and this is exactly what happened on this date while we were actively involved.
Mm-hmm. Another step. Filed claim in 2013. During CMP examiner noted that I had hives and filled out DBQ that I saw after I got my C-file. It was never considered in my original claim. Can I now file Gulf War presumption and use her DBQ? So if it was never considered in your claim, you need to go to your rating decision just to verify this and look under the evidence section after that 2013, before that 2013 claim, and you need to verify that the CMP exam was not in there. Just because they don't discuss it in the actual issue part doesn't mean they didn't look at it. Okay. Mm-hmm. So if it was noted in there in the evidence section, no, that evidence is not new. It's not new and relevant, and you can't use that. Jamie, number one, I had a head injury in service, was denied claim for head injury residuals because I was asked if I hit my head on the ship. I said no and didn't elaborate. It happened in another place in service. Part two, I had my head injury on my STRs. What new and relevant evidence can I show them as to when I file a supplemental claim? Will a statement be enough, and the doctor saying I have a history of TBI? Yes. Remember, even if it didn't happen on your ship, let's say you were on leave,
you're active duty,
and you went on shore, and somebody smacked you over the head, or you walked into a wall, or something like that happened, that's all considered on duty. A service member's day is 24/7. Okay, you're never off duty when you're on active duty.
So I would once again get the compensation and pension exam and the medical opinion. Why did they deny you? Did they say did not hit head on ship, or did they say service treatment records show no head injury? So you need to point out if the service treatment records showed a head injury, say this is incorrect. Here, the copy of our service treatment records showing that I did hit my injury. It had nothing to do with hitting it on the shift.
Sure.
It had to do with wherever it was done.
And yes, your statement and doctor's statement is enough to reopen the claim.
But you need to always find out why specifically do they deny you.
Yeah,
okay.
Sergeant King, good to see you. Hello, can someone explain the years after we have ETS and filing for compensation?
What is ETFs?
Explain the year that they are discharged.
Oh.
So this is one of the few examples where you can get benefits back before the date of filing. So you get out of service and 6 months later you file a claim and you win, they're going to backdate that all the way to service. You have to file that claim though within a year of your discharge.
Right.
Butter S, hello friends. Thank you for everything you do. We appreciate you being here. Big Judah 86, should I file fatty liver disease secondary to alcohol and substance abuse? If you are service connected for alcohol and substance abuse, I'd file it, but Carol, is fatty liver disease a diagnosis?
I don't think you're going to get anything.
Yeah.
If you got something, be 0%, but I don't think
cause,
it's.
though? It causes a deterioration of the liver.
But lots of people have fatty disease, but it's not causing them any problems. It's just there. It can cause cancer, a lot of other things. You can file, but I don't think you're going to, even if you get service connected, it's going to be a 0.
George Williams, how long do you think this Marine Corps lawsuit, and can I add it to my will if grandkids lose my wife and son? Yeah, I don't know about the grandkids, but you definitely, the wife and son could get the benefits. They are saying 5 years right now. There is an expedited process. If you are desperate for the money, you can get it. And basically it's all about how long you were exposed, not how significant your disability is.
Very unfair.
It's extremely unfair. So for Parkinson's, if you're there for a year, you get like $100,000. Meanwhile, if
it doesn't matter what your symptoms are.
It doesn't matter what your symptoms are, which is ridiculous because it's not about.
If you were there 5 years, 500,000, right?
450.
Yeah.
Still.
But so it's not, has nothing to do with how bad you are. It has only to do with how long you were there.
Now, if you have cancer and that cancer has been in remission and you don't have a problem, then you want to look into this. It's called the elective option for Camp Lejeune Justice Act claims. Okay, because if you don't have a current problem and you're there for 30 days, you get a $150,000. If there's no current problem, great. But if you have a significant disability right now, they're trying to get you to leave a lot of money on the table.
And maybe some people, they have no heirs, they have no spouse, they're going to die.
Yeah.
Then that might work. But that's the only case that I would say, or say you're going to have a huge VA offset.
There's no VA offset with this.
Right.
So that is a nice thing.
But like everything, we haven't seen how it's going to work. The VA comes out with a lot of things, and like this PACT Act, what has it been, a year already? And not one person has been offered any money. So we don't know what's going to happen with this one either. I would hope that it's so cut and dry that it wouldn't be difficult.
When she says the PACT Act, she's talking specifically about Camp Lejeune.
Yeah.
The PACT Act.
I would hope, but until we see how they do this, we're always kind of just guessing.
Yeah. So I've got an appointment coming up, and I'm going to be that I need to go to. So I've only got time for a couple more questions. Just to let you know, we have to end a little early today. So let's go with 5 more questions. Hope we can get that. Jake, have you guys ever had a veteran file for TDIU and the VA totally ignored it?
Yes. That's an open claim.
Didn't deny it or give it, just totally ignored. Yes, as Carol said, it's an open claim, meaning you file again, and that needs to go all the way back.
We love to find those.
Yeah.
Remember the squeaky wheel. If you filed, start calling.
Yeah. John, how do I get a claim restarted? The VA closed, but didn't inform me of the decision and the appeal window has expired. You need to file a supplemental claim. That's the easiest way to do it. Find some even minuscule evidence to submit for new and relevant evidence, but get it going. And then while you're getting the claim won, or hopefully after you win the claim, you say, oh, by the way, you closed this before, never informed me, and therefore it should go all the way back.
And hopefully in the file you can find they sent it to the wrong address. You gave them a new address, they didn't use it. something, or they didn't send it to both you and your representative. Look for things like that. Will make it easier.
Eric W. I've been diagnosed with psoriasis and psoriatic arthritis and
Can't help you.
uveitis. You can't help me. Uveitis. And my doctor wrote in my notes that it's more likely than not due to my burn pit exposure. Do I have a claim under the PACT Act, Terror Act?
Absolutely,
Yes,
I would think.
I think you need to file that. You need to get your doctor to expand that a little bit and say, why did the burn pits? I mean, and he could just say, look, there's no family history of this. There was no other chemical exposure post-service. He was exposed to these chemicals, and these chemicals are known to cause all those diseases.
Right.
Latif Davis, my back claim was denied over a year ago. I see that my back condition in my STRs, and it's definitely in my VHA, Veterans Health Administration records. I also have sciatica as a result. Will this ensure that I have a winning case?
No, because probably if they denied you, they said whatever the problem was you had in service ended, and this is a whole different problem. So you have to show the continuity. Whatever started in service has continued, and it has continued to cause all of these problems. So you're going to have to get a nexus. You're going to have a doctor who'll say whatever happened in service is the same problem you're having now.
Richard Dix, my lawyer filed a claim without my knowledge. Is that considered understood by the VA? Your lawyer can act on your behalf and file claims.
Right.
Hopefully, usually the lawyer would talk to you about that. Sometimes if a lawyer sees a claim that's so obvious they want to file it, as Carol would say, get it in and get
it in, get it started. That's good for you. Your lawyer is acting in your better interest.
James,
thank you.
Too. Great. Oh gosh, come on. Put me first.
Is Matt holding down? See?
Matt holding down.
You're the anchor.
Thanks, James. All right, I got time for 2 more. Let's do that. T-Rod, how does VA can deny hearing loss for veterans when just marching and singing next to each other is over 85 decibels, which is hearing loss? This goes to the Maryland hearing, what is it called? The Maryland hearing test? It's so antiquated how they evaluate hearing claims. Frankly, we don't handle them because the law allows them to do this.
Well, I handle them, but they're really hard to win.
It's really hard to win.
And I always tell people, unless you are really deaf, it's probably not worth your while. It is the hardest thing to get a reasonable rating for hearing loss of anything in the VA. You can get a great depression because of my tinnitus or my 0% or 10% hearing loss.
Right.
A much higher rating for that than you can for the hearing loss.
Yeah.
So
again, secondary are so important.
But don't keep fighting on something that's not going to give you anything. And that's what the hearing, unless you are totally deaf or seriously deaf, I'd go to something else.
Yeah. Jody, good to see you. Last question. I was wondering if a vet is homebound due to mental health. Only goes to doctor pretty much if a vet is 70%. How hard would it be to get aid in attendance, also homebound?
Well, they're two different things, really.
I don't know, 100% rating that, right? Total rating.
Well, the regional office thinks you can't get aid in attendance if you don't have 100%, but you can. The BVA grants that.
I would first go for the 100% through unemployability, because if you can't leave the house, how are they working?
Yeah, and also the homebound. Remember, if your doctor will do a letter saying you aren't able to leave the home, you only go to the doctor, then that's going to get you homebound right there. Yeah. And then you need to start working on, for health reasons, what activities of daily living can you not do because of your mental health?
Yeah.
But file all of them at once, okay? Now.
Read her lips. All right, folks. Thank you so much for joining us today. We always appreciate your great questions, making us think. And, remember, knowledge is power here.
Yep.
Acting first, being proactive with the VA is power here. Okay. Hope you have a great, wonderful week, and we look forward to seeing you again next week.